Welcome. This is Dr. Matt Lyon. We're back again for part 2 of our 5 gifts of the spine. We're going to talk about the first gift specifically, which is function. So I just want to give you guys a context for this. This is the first in a series. We're going to talk about the 5 gifts of the spine, which, just briefly to review, are function, emotion, sense of self, behavior, and consciousness. Today we're going to focus on number 1, which is function. If you want to just hear the overview on the other 5 gifts of the spine, go ahead and stop this video. You can see the overview on all 5, just very brief snippets on all of them. So this is where we're going to get into it just a little bit. Really excited to learn more about this, and again, props and kudos to Donnie Epstein for really just having the genius to put this all together. If you go to wiseworldseminars.com, there's a great CD series of a talk that Donnie did in Israel, which is very funny, and it's just incredibly articulate in describing this in much more detail than I have the time to do on these videos. But let's talk about function. So just to brief review, I mean, the spine is ultimately made of a bunch of different vertebrae that do what? Well, they're the house. They are the protective garage of the spinal cord. And what is the spinal cord? Well, the spinal cord is simply an extension of your brain. In fact, we shouldn't call it the spinal cord as if it's something distinct from or separate from the brain. It's really the brainal cord. And some phenomenal research has just come out really stating unequivocally that the spinal cord really functions much more like the brain than we previously thought. What that really means is that we used to think that the spinal cord was basically just this massive way station. You know, it was basically just a way to send messages from brain to the body and back. And that's partially true, but that's not the whole truth. The spinal cord in of itself is actually processing information just like the brain does. So this is so huge. So when we say function, well, what do we mean? That means that we have the basic metabolic energy to do life. So at the most simple level, this means that every cell in your body can do the jobs that it needs to do. It can detoxify toxins. It can go through the Krebs cycle to produce ATP, which is like producing energy money in your body. It has the ability for you to breathe in and for your body to go through this amazing balance of maintaining an acid-alkaline balance. It means that you digest your food, your heart beats, your liver detoxifies you, your spleen and your thymus produce immune agents. It's just phenomenal. So really, function is basically the metabolic energy to do everything that you need to do to be alive. From a developmental perspective, and this is important because as we talk about the 5 gifts of the spine, what we're really observing is a spiral developmental loop where the higher we go in these gifts of the spine, the higher the developmental process that goes along with it. So this is really the most basic, and yet this is what most people initially think chiropractors are good for. Well, my back hurts, my neck hurts, my head hurts, I don't have enough energy, there's problems with my digestion, and I've been diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome, and I've gone to my doctor and they didn't know what to do with it. I have recurrent allergies, I have asthma. All these things we'll cover, but these are really issues of function. I mean, basically, every cell in your body, every single cell, and there are trillions, have 3 to 9 nerve fibers going into them. These nerve impulses, which are actually carrying both electrical information, they're stimulating the release of neurotransmitters, and they act as acoustic sound waves. These are basically getting the cells to function. It's getting every tissue in your body to function. So it's fantastic, and we know that we're challenged with function when it's Wednesday, for instance. And we think, oh my God, when is Friday going to get here because I am barely making it through? So another good example, when you know that function is challenged, it's hard for you to wake up in the morning. It's hard to get up and go. 2 or 3 o'clock, we think it's normal to hit that like energy nosedive. And so what do we reach for? Well, we go for coffee, or now I guess the fashionable thing to do is the 5-hour energy drinks. Monster drinks are sort of now coming out of fashion, thank God. But now we have these little capsules. I'm a consultant at Lowe's Corporation, the big Home Depot competitor, much better than Home Depot, by the way. one of their employees was telling me that right around 2:30 to 3 o'clock, there's an absolute rush at the coffee shop they have in their office. So when function is having a hard time, when function is challenged, we just don't have to get up and go to do the things that we need to do. So this is really important. It's absolutely imperative to understand. So for our digestion to work well, for our cardiovascular function to work well, and for us to basically be able to process everything we need to do in life and have the energy to get done everything that we need to get done, function has to be on. So let's talk a bit now how this relates to the spine. Well, obviously the thing that's transmitting all of these messages is the spine. So let's say that stress, which is ubiquitous to all of us, right? I mean, everybody has quote-unquote stress. So stress comes in, and we filter that stress through the lens of our what? The human nervous system. And when there's anything that we can't fully process, that we can't fully digest, that we can't fully be with, the nervous system will literally store that as tension. Now, what will this tension do? Well, it will do a bunch of different things, and we'll get into this as we go through the gifts of the spine. But from this first video, it's so important to understand this will actually distort the positioning of the spine and therefore the spinal cord, placing an undue amount of stretch, torque, and tension on those very nerves. So what does it do? Well, it changes the amount of information that can go. Just like if you were watching this video and you had to call your friend and tell them that you wanted to meet them for dinner somewhere, and all you heard from that person was a crackly message coming back, you have no idea what they're telling you. Are they going to be there? Are they not going to be there? So same way, every cell in your body becomes distorted and dysfunctional when it's not getting proper messages. There was a very interesting study done at the University of Pennsylvania in the 1930s that looked at cadavers and looked at these torqued spines and found that everywhere there was a major torque, stress, or torsion on those nerves, on the nervous system, right where those nerves went, there was actually a breakdown of the morphology, meaning the structure of those cells. So this is a very, very big thing. This is why people will often, when they begin network care, will say, God, I'm sleeping better. I have so much more energy. This means that function's coming back online. In a large study, huge study, actually the largest study ever done of its kind at University of California, Irvine Medical School, we looked at defining what wellness was. We basically said, well, wellness is really the composite of 4 different aspects. One is that it's physical well-being. That has to do with physical pain, neck pain, back pain, headaches. But it also has to do with your digestion, your skin health, allergies, etc. And this really goes along with function. Now, there were other 3 parts to that study, which I'll mention later, but I want to mention now. The second one was emotional health, emotional and mental health. The third one was our ability to handle stress, an ability to not only handle stress, but to transcend the demands of stress. And fourth was to enjoy our life fully, to fully enjoy our life, whether it's relationships, work, sexuality, our bodies, our creative endeavors, our ability to have a spiritual connection. All of these we measured, and without a doubt, in a study of 2,818 people, 76% of those people had significant improvements, not only in all of those categories, but also in this first one that relates to the gift of function, which is that they had tremendous physical improvement. And in fact, when you have more energy, and when you're functioning easier, you have a whole lot more space and a whole lot more capital now to have healthy emotions, to have a healthy sense of self, to take positive, constructive behaviors, and have a really clear consciousness and a clear awareness of your life. So everything rests on this first gift. If we're really challenged with function, it's hard to have a healthy relationship with our emotions. If we don't have a healthy relationship with our emotions, and if basically we're driven left, right, and center by a cascade of dysfunctional emotions, our sense of self is going to be distorted. And when our sense of self is distorted, what do you think happens to behavior? It's distorted. And as our behavior is distorted, of course we're going to have cruddy perceptions about ourselves in the world, and it